Hello and welcome to the series of editorial discussion. Today we were supposed to discuss the editorial of the 27th of July. But if you go through today's editorial, you will find out that there is no article that is relevant for us today. All the articles have a political undertone. So this has given me an opportunity to go a little offbeat and discuss a topic that is very, very important. In fact, the entire analysis of our series, or for that matter, our entire program is useless if students don't understand this art of answer writing in the UPSC main examination. So I got an opportunity, because of no editorial that is relevant for us, that I can deviate my discussion on giving or sharing some experiences and giving you some tips on answer writing for the UPSC main. This is also important in the context that UPSC mains are what are just coming up, so it will be of immense use to all our students. So coming to the discussion, the first area which you need to focus upon before you try and attempt any question in the UPSC is that you have to understand what is the demand of the question. Now, first and foremost, just a rough idea I want to tell you all. I want to share a brief idea about the making of UPSC papers. Now, it is not that this exam is what is conducted like a school level exam. It's not like that. Thousands of teachers are what are involved here. Thousands of people, staff is what is involved. A select group is what is selected amongst some of the most educated people in the country are selected to set up the UPSC paper. And amongst the plethora of questions that are proposed by these expert group, few are what are selected each year. Now, it is not that these questions are selected abruptly, and also it is not that they are made abruptly. If they have some words that are associated with them, these words have a meaning. Large number of times what happens is that students have a mindset that almost all of these words, for example, examine, critically examine, comment, analyze, evaluate, discuss, elucidate, students don't differentiate between these words. Now my question to you is that if the UPSC did not intend to have any difference amongst these words, then why is it even making an effort to use a different word in every single question? It could simply use the idea of a same word being repeatedly used in almost all the questions. So clearly, if the UPSC is not doing this, this clearly reflects that the UPSC is expecting some different analysis or different answer for different questions. And that is why you have to show this discipline of identifying the keywords and answering as per it. If you are not following this, first and foremost impression that is given to the examiner is that the student is careless and is indisciplined, and no matter how much ever you have prepared for this examination, you will not score. You will come out as a student who just simply says that he had prepared enough but was not able to clear mains or was not able to score well in mains. So coming to the first analysis of our discussion today, it is with regards to identifying these keywords. So the first keyword that is most commonly used in UPSC is examine. Now this word examine itself means that suppose there is a case that comes up to you, you have to examine that case. So examining simply means you have to investigate. Suppose a particular statement is what has been given. This statement could simply be in the context of suppose RTI. I'm going to use some very, very common topics as examples. It could be said that RTI has been more redundant for India rather than being beneficial for India. Now this is one statement and I have simply said examine. Now here you don't have to say anything else, but simply you have to examine my statement. The statement is that has RTI been more redundant? How will you investigate this? You might give me some facts that yes, after the introduction of RTI, there has been a bureaucratic backlog. The red tapeism is what has increased. Confidence of the bureaucracy is what has deterred. Or for that matter, you might investigate that no, that is not the case. Still, the country is doing well. In fact, a number of open cases are what have started, and because of that, bureaucracy has rather become more efficient because of some threat of their cases being reported of being open under the RTI. The bureaucracy is now acting in a more responsible manner. So that is how you have to examine. So wherever the word examine is what is written, you have to investigate the particular case, and that is how you have to attempt your paper. Now another question that often does come is critically examine. Now whenever the word critical means criticize, criticism, this is a word that brings about a negative. So whenever the critical word is what is associated, you have to also bring about the negatives of that particular issue. For example, it might be said that India is a much more developed nation. Suppose simple statement like that. But if it is like critically examined, then you will have to give the negative aspects of it also. You cannot simply go ahead with the statement that yes, India is developed and India has done this or India has done that. No, you have to give the negative aspects that no, India is not developed because India still has poverty, or for that matter, these kind of analysis is what you have to bring about. So whenever the word critical comes, negative is what has to be given. That is what is the foremost demand. If you are not going to highlight the negative aspect of the question, of the statement, and the word critically examine is what has been used, no matter how good an answer you write, no matter how many facts you provide, you will not be given marks. That is what is important, and definitely if you are discussing the positive and negative, try and come out with a fair judgment also. That is what critical examine means. Third word that is often commonly used is comment. Now comment simply means that you have to give your opinion. You might have often heard also the news channels, journalists go ahead and ask people to comment on a particular topic. What comment simply means is that you have to give your opinion. So if a question is demanding you to comment on that issue and you are not coming out with a crisp, clear opinion, you will not be rewarded. Your opinion has to be given, and that is why wherever the word comment is what is coming, you should immediately be clear that an opinion has to be given. So that is one thing that you should know. Next, when you come to another keyword, which is analyze. Again, this is a commonly used keyword. Whenever analysis comes, in that scenario what you have to do is, it's a summary. So this is what is important whenever analysis is coming. This is one word that you have to understand. And by summary, what we mean is that you have to consider all the parts of that particular topic. Suppose corruption is a topic on which a question has come, that corruption is what is still pertinent in India as it was 50 years ago maybe. So you have to analyze that statement, so which simply means that you have to analyze it from all the perspectives. You have to discuss about the historical aspect of the corruption. You have to discuss about the state-wise distribution of corruption. You might have to discuss about the economic impacts of that particular issue. You might have to discuss about the international relation context of corruption in India. So all of this is what you have to analyze. You have to discuss the social impacts of corruption. In all of a nutshell, you have to discuss this topic. This is a brief essay, I always say. Whenever analysis is what is coming, try and write an essay in 150 words is what is the demand of the question. So this is what is important with reanalysis. Next, another type of keyword that has been used is evaluate. Now when you are expected to evaluate, here what you have to do is that you have to test the truth of the statement. Similar to examine, even in examine you have to investigate that particular statement. But what is important here is that in evaluation you have to generally discuss about the pros and the cons of that particular statement, and that is how you have to evaluate that particular statement. In examine, this is not the only area that definitely you can examine by discussing the pros and cons, but there could be other analysis, other ways to examine a statement. You could discuss it through facts, through some reports, but in evaluate you have to mainly focus on the pros and cons. So this is one area. Another type of keyword that is commonly used is discuss. Now discuss simply means that you have to debate both the sides of the issue, and you have to focus more on the causes aspect. For example, the question could be about the simultaneous elections which is very much going on, and you have to discuss this issue. So here you have to debate both the positives as well as negatives, and lastly you have to focus on the causes for both the positives as well as the negatives. Now students might be getting confused in the context of some similarities that are coming between the word examine, evaluate, discuss. Definitely these terms are what do not exist in silos. It is not that if you are supposed to examine, then only examine part is there and analysis doesn't come. No, that does not happen. There is almost a large degree of overlapping between all of these terms for that matter. But the crux and the core demand is what you have to immediately recognize, and you have to cater to that particular core demand. For example, in critically examine, as I told you, the core demand is the negative analysis which you have to offer. In comment, the core demand is opinion. In analysis, the core demand is the summary is what has to be given. So this is how you have to identify the core demand and cater to your answer. Another type of keyword which is being rarely used now, but sometimes it does exist, and this is very, very important, is elucidate. Whenever elucidate comes, it simply means elaborate. But elaborate using an example. You have to prove the statement using examples, and without an example, your answer under elucidate will not fetch you any marks, no matter how much ever good an answer you have written. So this is the first step that comes to answer writing, identifying the keywords and catering to the core demand. So this is the first analysis. Coming to the next analysis, the structure of the answer. We all know the core demands of an answer. This is nothing new that I'm sharing, but I will tell you a method of actually coming up with an introduction, a body and a conclusion. Now, first and foremost, I would like to tell you that in introduction, definitely I would advocate that introduction is what is required. You cannot go ahead with an answer or a good answer if introduction aspect is what is missing. But I have also seen that often coaching institutes create a scenario where this is what is very, very overrated. What happens is that this is so much stressed upon in answer writing that students almost get lost in the fact that, oh, I am not good at introduction. Many students discussed with me that we are not good with introduction aspect, how to come up with an introduction. All of that is what I personally feel is what is creating a confusion or a confused state of mind for students. This is what has to be provided. It is good, but don't overrate it. Marks are not for the introduction. The question is asking you something else and focus on the body aspect. It is this part of the answer that will fetch you maximum marks. Yes, this will add extra 1 or 1.5 mark extra. Definitely this will reward it, but the core aspect of the answer is body. So if you are faced with a situation where there is a time constraint or you cannot cater to all the aspects of the answer, focus on the body, not the introduction and the conclusion. So this is one aspect that I want to discuss. Now, coming to the introduction aspect, how is it that you come up with an introduction? There's no need to panic much about it. First and foremost, whenever I discuss editorials, I tell you that some of the statements are introduction statements. For example, some fact if we have a fact, suppose that India has the aim of becoming a $5 trillion economy, for example, as simple an introduction as this, by the year 2030. Now, if this is what is the statement that is going on, and this is, if a question on economy is what has come, this can be an opening statement. Yes, this will not be very, very different from all the others, but this is a basic introduction statement, and this is one introduction where you never go wrong. So try and pick up these kind of core statements, try and bring about some facts. For example, if agriculture related fact is what is coming, try and have some figure about the distress of farmers or in the context of irrigation. All of these facts are what you can simply present in the one line, and this will show that there is agricultural distress in the country, and this can be a good introduction. If you still don't want to give this kind of an introduction, another type of introduction which will fetch you marks, which will be a good introduction, is always the context. That is why in all my editorial discussions, I begin my editorial discussions with a context. Now, context is that why is this topic being asked? Why is this issue what is in news? For example, in this year's main, a question can come on population. A lot is what is being said in the context of population, because India is expected to replace China as the most populous country in the world. So this in itself is what is an introductory statement. This is the context of that question coming in the paper. Now, they will not ask you a question about should India be partitioned from Pakistan. That is not a question. That is something that is way back. That is history. So they will not ask you a question like that. Definitely they will ask you a question which is relevant to the times today. So that is how you have to identify the context of a particular question, and you have to bring out that particular question. Suppose a question can come on the idea of a very, very powerful government at center. This is context with regards to the recent elections where one party has come in power, or questions can come on some electoral reforms. This will be context with regards to the election which have taken place. A question can come simply on water crisis. What is the context of this question? The context of this question is the water crisis that India has faced, particularly in the case of Chennai. So even if you introduce your answer as India is going, if simply you have to, a question does come on water crisis, and you simply write a statement that India is going through one of the worst phases in its history of water crisis, primarily seen in the city of Chennai. This is an introduction well enough. This caters to the fact that the student is well aware of the surroundings and has quickly identified that why this question is what is present. So this is how you have to come up with an introduction. Otherwise, yes, philosophical statements are also welcome, quotes are also welcome. Definitely they give a good impression, but I have always believed that how many quotes can you remember? And sometimes what happens is, just because you have a quote in your mind, sometimes students are just forcing that quote even out of context. Even if it is not relevant, just because you know it, students have a tendency to put it in the answers. This is not going to be a good thing, so try and avoid doing that. So this is how you can simply come up with an introduction. The second aspect of the question is the body. Now, in the body aspect, we have discussed that you have to cater to the core demand, try and bring about an analysis, try and focus on different aspects of the issues. One of the simplest idea to go ahead and build a body is that you should go ahead with the GS syllabus. First and foremost, suppose the paper 1 is what is about history, so go ahead with the historical aspect of that particular topic, then geographical aspect of that particular topic. The second paper is about polity, go ahead with the political aspect. Then you have to go back with the IR part of that particular topic, the international association of that particular topic. So even if you don't have much material with you in the context of an answer, there will definitely be questions. No matter how much you are well prepared, there will be questions which will stump you. That is the tendency of UPSC. That is the nature of this paper. You can never be 100% prepared for UPSC, but definitely you can be prepared to some degree to construct an answer, and this is the strategy that definitely works. If suppose a question that's come on a woman related issue which you probably have not heard of, so if you will simply discuss and distribute your answer according to this particular syllabus, you will come out with approximately 5 to 7 points, and this is the only word limit that you have. Definitely this kind of an answer will not fetch you the highest marks. I can definitely assert that if you are well prepared with the question, you will have an extra edge. So hard work is what is important, but in some questions, if still you don't have any material and you want to construct an answer there itself, so this is the strategy with which you will easily be able to come up with an answer, and you will be able to provide some good amount of data in this particular context. So that is how you can go ahead with the body part. And conclusion is always first, it's a gist that you have given, it's a final opinion that you are giving. Also in the conclusion aspect, please check that you have catered to the core demand. If you haven't, at least keep room for the core demand in the conclusion. If an opinion is what is expected out of you, give it in the conclusion. So a final ending of the answer is what you must bring about, so that it is what is streamlined. So this is the entire analysis of the structuring of your UPSC answers. That is how you have to go about it. Next, what you should know is about the word limit. Often this is what is a challenge for the students, that how will you ensure that word limit is what is maintained. Many students are troubled by this aspect of UPSC. So what is important in this particular context is first and foremost identification. Identify the core demand of the question. This will save you time. You will not beat around the bush, just cater to the core demand. If the question is for critical analysis or critically examined, don't go ahead giving all the summary. The demand of the question is to highlight more of the negative aspects. Just simply give the negatives of that particular topic and go ahead to the next question. Identify the question. That is what is going to save you time and will help you be within the word limit. Also, there is a good strategy. Go through the entire paper once. Quickly, you can devote 5 to 7 minutes. This is all about training yourself. If you will train, if you will continuously practice attempting 20 questions, you will develop this knack of going through the question paper in 5 to 7 minutes, or maybe a maximum of 10 minutes, and devote this time. Keep a pencil in your hand, keep marking the questions that you feel you can attempt well, keep marking the question which you will attempt on an average, and keep marking the questions which you will not attempt, or for that matter very minimal knowledge is what you have in that particular context, and then start attempting, so that you will know that which are the questions for which you have to give more time, a little more time than the ones which you do not know about. So this is how the identification process goes, and this will help you in the long run. Another very important aspect is with regards to the attemptation of the answers. Now there will definitely be an advantage of attempting almost all the answers. There is no doubt about this. Even if you have a doubt on some question, if it is until and unless it is a very technical question, which is something that you have never heard of only. For example, in the science and technology section, if a question is coming on some technology aspect which you have never heard of, then it is almost foolish to go ahead and attempt this kind of a question. You will be not getting any marks, rather a negative impression is what goes. And in the entire 4 paper series, there will be hardly 2 to 3 questions which will be of this particular category for a good attempt. If you haven't prepared, then trust me, this number will go high for you. But if a student is well prepared, then this is what will be maximum 2 to 3 or maybe 4, not more than this. So there will be 4 such questions. So you can easily go ahead with the answers of completely omitting these 4 questions. Otherwise, in all your general studies papers, you must have an attempt of maximum number of questions, so that you can get more marks. There will be no forgiveness for leaving questions as such, so don't fall in that trap that you will have to attempt only 10 questions very nicely and leave that other 10. You will never be able to clear this exam if that is the mindset that you have. No matter how much ever good attempts you make on these 10 questions, the marks that you will get for these 10 questions will never be high enough to cater to the marks here. Maximum marks that UPSC gives even for the best of answers is approximately 5 to 6, whereas for an average score it will give you, for an average question it will give you around 2 marks, maybe minimal 2 or 2 to 3 marks is what you will get. So if you will see, if you will compare that in these 10 questions, if on an average you had to probably get 4 marks and instead you are getting 5 marks, so that means on a total you have only increased your score by 10 marks, because in each answer, by writing it very well, you have got 1 mark more, so 10 to 12 marks is what you have increased. Whereas if you attempt another 10 questions and even if you get 2 marks in each single question for your attempt, you will get 20 marks. Clearly this will give you an extra edge, and that is how you have to attempt all the answers. There is no excuse for this. So this is another strategy for your attemptation and more number of marks. And third, what is very important is the equal treatment. The strategy of skimming through the paper for the first 10 minutes will help you here. Generally, when I even check students' test papers for mains, what I see in the test series also, the first 5-10 questions are their best attempts. The handwriting is good, the analysis is good, and as soon as they reach the 6th to maybe the 12th question, it goes average, and then from 12th to 20th the questions are literally a waste. They have simply attempted it for the heck of attempting it. It shows your indiscipline in attemptation, it shows your carelessness. This is what is not going to be expected out of a UPSC candidate. You need not attempt these first 5 questions very well. I'm telling you, don't fall in this trap. We have this mindset that if I attempt few questions very well, I will be rewarded. You will never be rewarded. This is UPSC, this is not a state exam. So that is why you have to keep this thing very clearly in your mind. Even if you attempt them very well, 2 marks extra per question will only be 10 marks, whereas on an average on all the other questions you will be losing approximately 3 to 4 marks. So if you lose 3 marks even for the next 15 questions, you can do the math, you are losing a lot of marks. You're losing around 45 marks. So this is, the loss is much higher. Don't fall in this trap. Go ahead with your paper in a simultaneous manner, give an equal treatment to all the answers, and that is one of the keys to scoring well in UPSC. So that is one analysis with the word limit. Next are some other tips which I have decided, because these are some questions that students often ask. What should be the color of my pen? Basically, it doesn't matter. Till the time you are writing with good answers, you will be rewarded. But still, if there is a choice, black colors preferably. This gives only a good contrast. This is simply for that particular reason. The paper that UPSC is giving to us is what is a bright colored sheet. So if you write on this with a black pen, the contrast that does come is what is better than a white and blue pen. But this is not a hard and fast rule, and there is no such distinction. You will be rewarded equally for both. So color is your choice. If you have to still choose, black would be a preferable color. Neatness, are there marks for neatness? Definitely there are marks for neatness. Why are the marks for neatness in any paper? If it is appealing to the eye, it will fetch you more marks, definitely. Is underlining and highlighting rewarded? Definitely yes, it is rewarded. I cannot say that it is not going to be rewarded. If you are making any sort of an extra effort, even if you are the examiner and I am giving you an answer with extra effort, you will reward me, and even UPSC will. But what is the reward? It will be 2 to 3 marks only, maybe 5 marks. 5 marks does matter if you can go ahead, make that extra effort. But word limit is a concern. First idea here is to attempt your entire paper. I have told you, do the math yourself. The entire paper itself will give you more marks as compared to these 5 marks that you can get. So that is one thing. Will diagrams be rewarding? Definitely yes, a big yes. Try and provide diagrams where it is required. Don't give diagrams where it is not required. Students have a tendency where it's not also required, they are making stupid diagrams. Don't do that. You don't have that much of time in UPSC. Yes, go ahead with diagrams if there is requirement. If there is a Venn diagram that can represent your analysis better, do it. If there is a rough map of India that can explain your issue better, please go ahead and do that. Any other type of diagram, please do it. But don't give silly diagrams also. You will not fetch marks and you will waste your time. So that is under the context of some other tips which are relevant for UPSC mains. Definitely, answer writing is the key to cracking this exam. You might study how much ever, you might be more talented than all the other students, but until and unless you know these knacks of writing a good UPSC answer, you will not be able to crack this exam. These tips are what have been learned over several years out of several experiences, and in a nutshell is what I'm presenting them to you. So please try and adhere them and follow them in your answer writing. And the key to writing good answers in UPSC is practice. Practice doesn't mean, for that matter, writing 2 to 3 answers daily. Yes, that is practice. but I would rather suggest that keep testing yourself for these 20 questions. What happens, I have seen, is that sometimes students every day they attempt 2 to 3 questions without any time limit. Definitely this will help you at an early stage. This is also required, but beyond this particular time, these attempts will not help you. What will be important is that you prepare and train yourself to attempt 20 questions in that particular time limit. There will definitely be a lot of reluctance in the beginning to go ahead with this kind of an attempt. Why is it a reluctance? Because you will not score well. You will have a lot of stress. You will only be able to attempt 10 or 11 questions properly, and other questions will be left. But keep going, just don't give up. Keep going, keep attempting these 20 questions. After attempting approximately 10 to 15 tests like this, you will get the knack of attempting it, and this is the only way out. Trust me, there are a number of students who are preparing. Those who are clearing the prelims and writing mains are almost at the same level. There is not much difference, only a slight difference between one preparation as well as the other. That too, it is in the context of the optional papers only. So what is important here is that you develop an extra edge in the context of your attemptation, and that can only come with practice. So this is the key to cracking UPSC. These are some tips on answer writing. If you have any other doubts, please get in touch with us. Write it in the comment section. I would love to clear that. For now, these are the tips that I wanted to share. So that's about our tips, and that's about my discussion today. I thank you all for watching the video.